Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Lots of audio to play in this one. Plenty of topics to cover from stem to stern here. But I want to start off with something that, frankly, I don't think I ever spend any time on. In fact, I'm certain I don't. You may be aware, or potentially not, that there is an American Education FM show store that does exist. You can access the store from my website, AmericanEducationFM.com, and there's a great deal of things over there. Again, mugs, t-shirts, bumper stickers, sweatshirts, even towels, beer glasses, the whole thing. I'll tell you what, let me do this just very quickly, because again, I never promote this store by any stretch of the imagination. First of all, I try to make the prices of everything as low as humanly possible. In fact, they're as low as I can possibly get them to where the store will actually allow me to sell it. Which means, say for example, a $21.99 t-shirt sells, I only end up getting maybe $1 of that money. And that's really about it. Keep in mind, anything that sells on the store or from the store or any donation that's ever made to this show goes right back into the show to maintain the website, to pay for the podcast, things of that nature. So again, any help is greatly appreciated. Let me just tell you a couple of the products here that I've added, and then a few that I actually own myself that I would certainly, I guess, advertise or recommend for anybody. If you're like me, you're kind of particular on the kind of t-shirt that you wear and the quality of the t-shirt. The best t-shirt I think that Teespring, or Spring, the t-shirt company, makes is essentially called Next Level 3600 Premium Ring Spun Cotton T-shirt. In my opinion, this is the best T-shirt because it's how would I describe it? It's a little thick, but it's not too thin and it's not too thick. It's right in the middle, and it feels good. Again, the length of the sleeve is higher up on your bicep. It's not, big, fat, and clunky all the way down to your elbow, which I kind of enjoy. They shrink a little in the washing machine, but all you have to do is just pull them out and stretch them. So there's that. Again, as far as t-shirts go, that's kind of my favorite one. I've got, again, t-shirts that have the show title on the back, and then the show title is basically just on the left breast, on the front of the shirt. Same thing with a lot of, a couple of the hoodies. Again, some of them just say American Education FM podcast with a website. Some of them say it's okay to homeschool. One of them says homeschool now. Another one of my favorite shirts, frankly, is one where it's titled Never Stop Unlearning, and it's in Latin on the back of the shirt. And then again, on the front of the shirt is just the show title. The coffee mugs, I personally own a number of them. They're absolutely great. There's also another line of mugs and shirts and hoodies and a bumper sticker that have a child holding up a sign that says equality on it with the E crossed out. So it's just quality over equality. Sure you understand what that means. Again, unfortunately, in the education business, that's been the plague that has ruined the business. That whole equity nonsense, rather than just choosing individuals who are qualified rather than their political ideology. So I've got all of those over there. Again, I own the beer mugs as well. And that's basically it. Again, a number of different shirts. One that says the only pandemic is stupidity. Another one says the cure for cancer is on Amazon.com. I've got another shirt that has vaccine statistics and a little bar graph on the back. There's some other products, again, over there as well. And feel free and check it out. Again, you can access it on AmericanEducationFM.com. I'll be completely blunt with everybody. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not trying to sound like Alex Jones and just constantly plug all this stuff on a constant basis and drill it into people's heads. As you know, I never mention it. I never bring it up, but I just wanted to remind people that it is over there. I can vouch for the products because, again, I own a few of them. They're great. Again, I use them on a constant basis. I wear them out in public as much as I can. And there you go. So it's greatly appreciated, and again, any donation that makes its way to me always goes right back into the show. It truly does. So with all of that said, again, thanks for listening as always. I know you can listen to just about anything else you want, and I'm sure that you do, but you're tuning into this, and I greatly appreciate it. Okay, enough of that. Let's dive in here. First of all, I did want to mention this if I haven't before. I'm fully aware of the California fires that are taking place out in California and have been taking place, frankly, since the election. I find them to be highly suspicious. I would not be surprised, of course, it's clearly arson. I don't think that, that's not going to surprise anybody, no one with a brain anyway. Not to mention the individual homes going up, some of them are full-blown mansions. And the trees around them, again, are completely untouched. So are we talking about individualized arson? Are we talking about direct energy weapons? Are we talking about smart meters blowing up? Seems highly suspicious. Again, are individuals trying to get out of there with some insurance money and then split the country? Who knows? But I did want to make people aware, again, that I was aware of that. I put some of those clips in the past war videos. And yeah, the timing. It's all about the timing, isn't it? The timing is beyond suspicious. Okay, let me get into this now. There are plenty of headlines that are out there right now regarding Donald Trump's selections or so-called selections when it comes to his cabinet and other positions in his administration. A lot of these positions, as I'm talking to you right now, are not confirmed. As I'm recording this, a lot of these aren't confirmed. A lot of individuals, again, have been selected and it has been confirmed, but other people's names have not. So the headline will make its way out there and people will, again, believe it instantly, but there's no actual confirmation. So let me get into a few of the confirmed individuals, some of the individuals that have been tossed out as rumors, and then I want to dive into a little bit of a deeper discussion here about what I think is going on and how this is certainly an interesting time to be alive, and I would almost call it kind of a purgatory, so to speak. I mean, we really don't know what's coming in the future. We don't know the levels of accountability that are going to be taking place. And we really don't know what the real motives are regarding Donald Trump and his advisors around him selecting these individuals and what he really wants these people to do. We hope, of course, that Drain the Swamp continues to be a theme and that this is something that will continue to happen. We don't need these agencies, but people also have to, I think, understand that you do have to hire some people for some of these agencies to figure out what's going on, who's dirty, who's clean, and then work your way through the agency to weed out the bad people, knowing full well that that's one hell of a task, rather than just getting rid of the entire agency and starting from scratch. So again, I'm not going to pretend that I know how to do any of this. This is a level of warfare and business management and, of course, bureaucratic management that I have no experience in whatsoever. So I'm not going to pretend to know. But let me just get into some of these names here. First of all, we do know, because it's been confirmed, these names anyway, Lee Zeldin has been picked to head up the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. Susie Wiles, of course, is the Chief of Staff. Tom Homan, I think a very good pick, was selected as the Border Czar. This is where it gets a little shady. Elise Stefanik, of all people, you know my take on her. She's been chosen to be the UN ambassador for the United States. And then Stephen Miller, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. Those have been confirmed. The ones that are rumors, as of right now, are Marco Rubio regarding the Secretary of State, Tim Waltz, the White House National Security Advisor. Again, Trump has not confirmed these people. Kristi Noem as the head of the Department of Homeland Security. Now, I'll tell you, that one confuses me big time. And then, of course, Kash Patel for the CIA. Me personally, I would like to see that one. No doubt about it. He's given more interviews with more individuals on more platforms, telling the stone-cold truth about what's really going on, by and large, and then what he would like to see and what he wants to get done. Kash Patel, to me, does not seem like a guy who can be bought. Not by any stretch. The rest of these people, I gotta tell you, they're swamp creatures. Many of them are on the record Zionists. And again, I kind of have a problem with that. Now, this is Dave from X22 Report's take on this. This is kind of interesting, but again, we have to remember that when these names get tossed out there, the Anons go to work. And lots of different people go to work on these individuals and these names and their histories and a number of other things. Case in point, Senator Cornyn and Senator Thune, and of course, Senator Scott, Rick Scott. These three individuals were thrown out there to potentially be the Senate Majority Leader. And many of them, of course, well, at least Thune and Cornyn, have openly said that they're not interested in Trump's, input and XYZ. Certainly Thune has said that. It seems like, and then, of course, those names were thrown out there, and then you got to see who in the Senate was supporting whom. That's an interesting move to make, because it flushes these people out. It shows them, as Thomas Massey has said, it shows them who their AIPAC handlers are, and who AIPAC wants them to support, and a number of other things. Now, me personally, again, I lived in Florida. I'm not a fan of Rick Scott. He did some good things down there and a number of conservative things, which was fine. However, his stance on international events and so-called wars, I don't know. It's an interesting one. I think that he could basically bend either way, depending on which way that the wind blows. I think we know where Thune stands because, again, having stood behind Mitch McConnell for as long as he has, he's just creepy as hell, and I don't trust him any further than I can throw him. And as far as Cornyn is concerned, in the last war video, I threw up a video clip, of a woman who lives in Texas who approached him at a convention, and she cornered him and started asking him all kinds of questions and berating him, and he didn't know where to go. And then what did he do? He gave out the standard, well, we don't want World War III, and, that's exactly why we're giving money to Ukraine, because they're our ally, and blah, blah, blah. And the woman approaching him and confronting him was having none of it. And then other people were coming up to her saying, so why are you going after him? She would quickly explain, and then they would agree with her, and then they were going after Cornyn too. You see, these bureaucrats don't think that we know more than they do. And they think that, they can just look at us and tell us a line, and we're just going to blindly believe it. Oh, a senator said World War III. Oh no, what are we to do? Oh, Putin's a bad guy. What are we to do? I mean, one of the things that Putin did over there is he basically looked at a lot of the Jewish handlers, and he said, here's how this works. It's my way or the highway. And that's essentially been confirmed. Again, a lot of people say Putin's a Jewish puppet. I kind of disagree with that. He knows what they've done in his country. He knows what they've done to Ukraine. He knows what the Khazarian Mafia, Zionists, and Jewish lobby have done. He's well aware. I mean, he sat down and gave Tucker Carlson that huge history lesson. Remember that? I mean, that was important. That was a big deal. But local senators here in our country, they can't walk around and talk to us like we don't know as much as they do. The tables have turned. Everything has flipped here. And that's an excellent thing. So let me get into, again, some of these specific names. I'm going to pick on Elise Stefanik here, but I have a theory, and I don't know if it's going to hold up or not. Time will tell. But with these individuals, specifically with, for example, Lee Zeldin and Elise Stefanik, certainly Elise Stefanik. So let me just hone in on her very quickly. Elise Stefanik, as we all know, was screaming at the top of her lungs, anti-Semitism, Jewish hate on college campuses, blah, blah, blah. I've played the audio on the show. Excuse me, I'm not going to play it again. I think we get her stance. Again, she's a liar. She's Jewish. She's from New York. And as I've said on the show here, I think she's a full-blown communist. With that said, she's not America first by any stretch. However, if you take her out of Congress as a UN ambassador, which means now, of course, she would be out of Congress because you have to forfeit your congressional position, that would simply mean that the good guys have to know that they have a viable replacement for her in Congress, and that if she screws up at the UN or gets exposed to things at the UN that she doesn't think she's going to get exposed to, and she does a bad job, then she's out of politics for good. I mean, I have to try to find a silver lining in this. I'm an optimist, but again, that's typically the way that it goes. I mean, look at what Nikki Haley did. Nikki Haley went from being the governor to a presidential candidate potentially, to being hired by the Trump administration, to being the UN ambassador, to getting fired. And then she's out of politics. And with every firing and every move that she made, her eyes would get bigger and bigger and bigger, bulging out of her skull. And everybody knows she's a neocon. Everybody knows she's a war hawk. Everybody knows she's Israel first. She isn't any different than Elise Stefanik, and Elise Stefanik isn't any different than Nikki Haley. They're the same person. So again, I have a quick piece of audio from Elise Stefanik. I think I played this on the show a while back. I'm almost certain I did. This is her again talking at the UN on behalf of Israel. This isn't recent. This was a while back. So give her a listen in 3, 2, 1.
As long as I serve the American people, I will defend George Washington's vision of religious pluralism and freedom. Today, this means crushing anti-Semitism at home and supplying the state of Israel with what it needs, when it needs it, without conditions to achieve total victory in the face of evil. Chants of death to America are not hollow slogans. They are a promise that what happened here on October 7th could happen in the United States unless Hamas and its jihadist accomplices are eliminated. And it is the United States' high honor and high responsibility to support Israel's effort. I have been clear at home, and I will be clear here. There is no excuse for an American president to block aid to Israel, aid that was duly passed by the Congress. There is no excuse to ease sanctions on Iran, paying a $6 billion ransom to the world's leading state sponsor of terror, or to dither and hide while our friends fight for their lives. No excuse, full stop. That's why I'm proud to have sponsored or backed every measure to aid Israel that has come before the United States Congress. Every single one. And it's why for years I have been a leading proponent and partner to President Trump in his historic support for Israeli independence and security, including moving the U.S. Embassy to its rightful place in Jerusalem. Israel is indeed a miracle, an outpost of freedom, of Western values, of civilization, a striking example of human potential, the physical embodiment of Herzl's maxim, if you will it, it is no dream. It's the same founding ethos that we prize in America, the American dream.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. So let's get a few things straight from that clip. And you may have heard that again on the show before, and it's possible I played it a long time ago, but it's been making the rounds again, and rightfully so. First of all, George Washington and the Founding Fathers knew that there was a Jewish problem. They were well aware that those who controlled the banks, and they knew that they were Jews and Jewish families, that they could control individuals and corrupt people. And they also knew that would be a motivator for war. Look at everything that's happened since, and look at who's pulled the strings the entire time. When you get this kind of language from an American citizen, and she probably has dual citizenship, so let's not kid ourselves with that one. She most certainly does. But this kind of language is not America first. This kind of language is not an American ideal, as she put it. And no, Israel is not an outpost of American ideals. No one with a brain believes this. It's the most perverse country. It's one of the most degenerate countries that exist. They spit on Christians. They are not Christian. There are no Christian churches that exist that aren't being consistently targeted, if they even do exist in Israel. I don't even think they do exist. Not to mention the ongoing slaughter that has happened. These individuals like Elise Stefanik are as brainwashed as all of the school teachers that you're seeing right now get fired because they believe things that are not real. Now, is Elise Stefanik blackmailed? I don't know. It's possible. It's also just possible that because she's Jewish, she was funded by them, given copious amounts of money for her campaign, and then the rest is history as far as her time in Congress. So no, I don't like the position. I don't like the selection of the position. But if Donald Trump knows that she's a war hawk, which clearly she is, she was beating the war drums in Congress against all presidents of all universities who wouldn't bend the knee to Israel, which is completely unconstitutional. And all of those firings, I've been over all of that stuff. All of that stuff was totally constitutional, complete communism and Bolshevism in its style. This hiring is going to either sink Elise Stefanik for good, because I don't know any American who listens to her and finds her appealing. Not by any stretch of the imagination. So again, this is either being done because the UN is a sinking ship and Trump wants her on that sinking ship so that she sinks with it. Or she's there in some effort to clean it out, which I don't think that's going to happen. Or again, it's just being used to get her out of Congress forever, essentially. I find it hard to believe that he would send her to the UN to actually defend America, albeit really just defend Israel no matter the cost. Again, I want to see the UN cease to exist. I think everybody does. And I don't think we want to wait 10 years to see the UN cease to exist. I've seen individuals online and they say, well, the UN will be done away with in 10 years. Why 10 years? Let's just get it over with. Rip the Band-Aid off. We don't need it. Destroy the building in New York, bring it to the ground, and let's just not have it. It's global government. After all, as it's been said and stated numerous times across endless platforms, the UN was developed in the 1950s under the guise of ending all world war and all wars. Since its inception, all we've had is war. So, how's that going for everybody? It's a giant child trafficking, money laundering war machine. Always has been, always will be. It has to be done away with. My hope is that Trump put her in this position to have her be on the sinking ship when it sinks. I hope that's the case, because if not, all we're going to hear is her screaming about how great Israel is at the UN conferences, and it's just going to get gross. It's going to get real disgusting. So anyway, there's that. I just wanted to play that for everybody. Okay. Again, as I said, Kash Patel, I think, would be a fantastic pick. He was an outsider, not involved whatsoever. Again, he ran numerous operations during Trump's first administration. He was still receiving classified information and had access to classified information when the fake Biden administration took over. I think he's a solid pick. I think that goes without saying. As far as Lee Zeldin goes, I don't know. Could he help drain some of the swamp at the EPA? I certainly hope so. But again, he's Jewish, from New York. Time will tell. I just want these people's allegiance to be to America. And unfortunately, as we know in their own religious documentation, they only have one allegiance. It's not to Jesus Christ, and it's certainly not to America. So, again, I have a problem with that, unless, of course, their cards have been pulled, and individuals have pulled them aside and educated them and said, you're going to do what we want you to do or else. And I'm talking about good guys saying that to these people, not so-called bad guys. So, I don't know. As far as the rumored positions, Kristi Noem at the Department of Homeland Security, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, you have to be joking. We need a strong man in that position, no offense to women. But I've watched lectures of Kristi Noem. She's soft. She's bought off. She has to be blackmailed. I'm glad she's kept the schools open, so to speak, during the whole COVID lie, that their entire state didn't shut down. That was probably the best thing that she's done. But again, Department of Homeland Security, I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. Again, unless her sole job is to drain the swamp there. And that's a big swamp to drain. So, I don't know. Again, she's Israel first also. She has said so. Our greatest ally, Israel. Which, by the way, getting back to Elise Stefanik's comments earlier, where she says that Iran and, Middle Easterners, or Saudi Arabia or whomever, are our greatest, our greatest enemies that exist. This couldn't be further from the truth. Our greatest enemies are Zionists because they want everybody dead except them. Period. They're the ones that authored the Great Replacement. And replacement migration. That's not a theory, that's a fact. UN documentation, after all. I mean, think about that one. Here goes Elise Stefanik over there, where actual UN documentation, which is available on my website for you to read. I've been over it on the show. This right here is a huge problem. This is not a theory. This is legit. Zionists are our problem. That's a huge issue. And Kristi Noem, again, has bent the knee to Israel before. When asked direct questions about her allegiance to things like this, she buckles. Completely buckles. Again, I've never heard Kash Patel spend too much time on it. And if he does, his voice kind of quivers and then he gets off of it very quickly. I think he knows. I think he knows who the real enemies are. As far as Michael Waltz is concerned, this is a Fox News guy. He's been on Fox News a lot, former congressman. He's Israel to the bone also. Ex-military, they're our greatest ally and blah, blah, blah. See, I can't wait for people to figure out that Israeli soldiers in the IDF during Operation Iraqi Freedom, quote unquote, even when we were fighting in Afghanistan and fighting in Iraq for no reason whatsoever, that IDF and Israeli soldiers were shooting and killing American soldiers. This is on film. This is a fact. And as it's also been said numerous times by endless people and frankly, endless interviews, if the American people knew what the Israeli government has done to America and what they did on 9/11, with blowing up all of those buildings and perpetuating this entire script of 9/11, Israel would cease to exist and be wiped off the map in the blink of an eye. But unfortunately, there are still plenty of individuals, certainly politicians and plenty of citizens who are still chained to these politicians mentally. That when the politician says something, the citizen just blindly believes it. That when they advocate for Israel, everybody again just claps their hands like a giant group of seals. It's embarrassing. But as I've also said, favoritism toward Israel among Americans is dropping. We don't need to be funding them anymore. Billions and billions and billions of dollars, tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions a year go over there. For what? That has to stop. We don't need to fund them anymore. Fund yourselves. Grow some crops in your sandbox and sell them to anybody who wants to buy them if you want. They're not our greatest ally or our greatest ally in the Middle East for freedom and American values. Please. Please. The exact opposite is true. So I'll give Dave from X22 report a little bit of credit here. Again, he's a little out there to lunch when it comes to Israel also. I mean, he's lost the plot when it comes to that too, but he did say this on Telegram. He said, quote, questions about Trump's picks. Number one, either the anonymous sources are right, and these are the picks, or, number two, Trump is allowing the leaks to see who is leaking information. And number three, deep state leaking information trying to cause chaos. I would say number four, a leak is purposefully made to awaken the public as to what these picks are and who these people are and what these people have said in the past. That's why all of this audio is coming out constantly about these people, again, and their stances on particular things. It's remarkably embarrassing for them, you would think, unless they're insulated from all this criticism. He went on and said, what's interesting is that all the rumors are individuals who hold a public office, either a governor or a senator. The confirmed picks are individuals that do not currently hold a public office. Well, I thought Elise Stefanik did. I thought she was still in Congress. I could have that wrong, but I'm not sure. I know Lee Zeldin is out of Congress. I know Mike Waltz is out of Congress. But anyway, I just don't think we need Elise Stefanik there. Again, the UN is a criminal organization, and here you have an individual who is an unconstitutional individual in our country as a sitting congresswoman, openly advocating for communism and Bolshevism in America. and furthering it on college campuses more so than it already is. Just because, again, people don't bend the knee to Israel, to then, of course, use those Mossad-like tactics on college campuses, of which, of course, they already are being used on a constant basis. But to continue to advocate for that and then even advocate for it at the UN, I mean, yikes, you're just putting her closer to her own enemy. So, I don't know. There might be more to it. There very well might be, but time is going to tell. Which is interesting about this time right now is that, like I said earlier, it's kind of a purgatory. We're all having to sort of wait to see what's going to happen. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, what we want is full accountability. And there are endless things that we want full accountability for. But the tough part rather for us is that with as much as we know, there's clearly a great deal that we do not know. Lots of classified information that we're unaware of. Lots of back and forth about, who did what, where, and how, and who's paying whom, and a number of other things. We can take pretty good educated guesses from time to time, and we might be right 70% of the time. Might even be right more than that. But even so, our expectations are so high that we sometimes feel, and I'm speaking for me personally here, that I feel like if those expectations aren't met, then someone somewhere along the line has failed us miserably. And then, of course, you see a lot of people on the internet get very upset about that. Why, what about this pick? And why didn't this thing happen? And 1,000 other things. So, again, looking at it from a 40,000-foot view, our expectations are quite literally through the roof. I mean, the sky's the limit, and our expectations actually go far through the sky. We want people to hang for massive crimes. We've detailed the crimes. We've gone over them. We know what they've done. Again, the lives that they've cost, even through the brainwashing that has existed decade after decade after decade. We want these people to go away permanently. We don't want deals to be made. We don't want somebody to be given some other position. That's not what we're interested in. We are interested in full accountability for all of these individuals. And yes, if the people didn't break the law, then unemployment should be the accountability. That should be the accountability move that happens, is that they're just ostracized and they never find their way back into a position of influence, certainly in the public eye, ever again. That has to happen also. But let me get back to the replacement migration thing very quickly. Again, the elimination of white people. This is a big problem. First of all, again, and this specifically has to do with Ireland. Apparently there's an Irish election coming up here in due time. I don't know who's on the ballots. I don't know what the major issues are, beyond, of course, the most obvious, which is race replacement and the resettlement of illegals into Ireland at the expense of the Irish. You cannot say that replacement migration, quote unquote, is not real. It most certainly is. So I want to play a quick little piece of audio here. This was a town hall from the Jewish-owned state broadcaster RTE. This is peak demoralization, as this particular post stated, that I threw up online also. And what they have is in this audience of Irish individuals, they have illegals also there. And the first voice you're going to hear is the host of this town hall, who works for RTE. She immediately starts talking to an Irish-born white woman who had to become homeless because of the cost of rent. And then sitting right next to her in the audience is a black African woman who was given a free home to live in. Just 'cause. Again, this is peak demoralization. This is exactly one of the tactics in destroying a country and destroying a people, is you use demoralization and then you normalize demoralization. This is disgusting, beyond disgusting. But I want you to give a listen to this, because the look on the Irish woman's face, which I'll put this in the war video so that you can physically see it, she looks like she wants to kill everybody in the room, and rightfully so. And again, sitting right next to her is this illegal African with the smile on her face from ear to ear. And most people in the room are disgusted with her. I certainly would be. I am. But give this a listen here in 3, 2, 1.
You've been there since last June, is that right? You're there and you have your 4-year-old son with you and he has complex medical needs.
Yeah.
Can you just very quickly tell us, how did you end up there in this situation?
So I was private renting a property for $2,700 a month, and issues came across with my little boy's crash. So I left my job and I just couldn't sustain the rent, and I had to declare myself homeless.
So the hub, you've been in the hub since then?
Yeah.
How are you finding it there?
Very hard.
Last year, you got a call from Wicklow County Council that changed your life.
Yes. I received that letter very unexpectedly, basically saying that I was being nominated for housing if I was interested, which absolutely. And I was put forward and I was accepted by the cooperative housing, and we've been in our forever home since.
So the white Irish lass was kicked out of her home because the rent was thousands of dollars through the roof. And then this black woman gets a free home, and she calls it her forever home. Again, this is the problem here. This is happening everywhere, too. This is happening in the United States. It's happening in numerous countries. It's happening in the UK, of course. It's happening in Scotland, Ireland, Wales, you name it. This is disgusting. And the group that is behind this, and you know who they are, they have been behind these schemes and these methods for a very long time. This is the Jewish lobby. This is the banking system. Those politicians over there pushing for this and allowing for this are all blackmailed and paid. It is quite literally that simple. This is not complicated. These people are taking their pieces of silver to destroy their own people so that they themselves can feel like they're safe and secure in whatever job they have and whatever position they hold, because they think that that's more important than the preservation of their own people. As far as I'm concerned, anybody can take the name calling and they can shove it. You're a racist, you're this, you're that, you're not equitable, you're not blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it from anybody. I don't care. Your words regarding all of that mean nothing. I've read the documentation. I'm sure you have too. You know full well that this is legit. So any of those leftist communists, screaming bubkiss about any of this and saying it's not real, it's beyond real. Hell, it's happening in the town where I live. It's that simple. It's happening all over the place. So I want to round this geopolitical discussion out very quickly by summarizing a number of different things and essentially saying this. In this past election, which it hasn't been brought up publicly, of course, by anybody in the media, and you know why, but the fact is that white people turned out in droves to vote for Donald Trump. Now, people can take that lots of different directions, and people can say, well, that's the downfall of the white people, and that's their mistake, and whatever else. I voted for the man because I'm not a communist. I also voted for the opportunity to succeed and have our country succeed. That's what I was voting for. I want our rights to be maintained. I want the freedom to say gay and retarded and continue to say it as much as humanly possible. Again, I'm a free speech absolutist without a doubt. With all of that said, though, make no mistake, white people turned out in droves to vote for Donald Trump. And there's an element here that's also never going to be brought up. And I know that other races of Americans voted for him in droves also. I'm well aware. And that's excellent. And thank you for doing so. Regardless of race, though, also, there's an element here, like I said a second ago, that is not going to be brought up by hardly anybody, and it is this element. Over the last 8 years, certainly over the last 10 or even longer than that, And even those departed individuals like William Cooper, who spent a great deal of time talking to individuals and having a radio show, albeit on shortwave radio and a number of other things. And of course, books that have been written and posters that have been made, and the, of course, meme war that has taken place over the last, 15, 20 some odd years. All of this has taught people real history. It's taught people about race replacement. It's taught people about the Jewish lobby. It's taught people about the war being about them versus us. And by us, I mean all of us who aren't them. Because they're the ones that want all of us eliminated. If a person wants to look at it from a religious standpoint, I've brought this up before, and you're probably well aware of this as well, is that there's only one religion that wants us all wiped away, and it is Jewish Zionism. Yes, it's a race of people, but at the exact same time, in their religious texts, they want everybody gone who is not them. This is where all of the degeneracy comes from. All the perversions, the pornography, the rainbow flag, lowering the age of consent for sex below the age of 18. This is what Jews want. No, it's not all of them. I know that. But it is the ones that pull the strings at the top. It's the moneylenders. It's the influencers. It's the politicians. It's the Mossads of the world. It's these organizations, and it's always been this way. Again, endless documentaries have come out about the truth about World War II, and all wars, and previous wars, who funds them, who starts them. All of this education has flooded the internet and social media within the last 15 years. 10 to 15 years, in a way that it has never hit the internet ever before. And the vast majority of individuals doing that online happen to be white people. That's a fact. It just happens to be whites. I'm not saying again that this is even busted up by race, and I'm certainly not trying to divide people. Americans and Europeans, regardless of race, who love their countries where they live, have been behind a great deal of this influx and this flood of factual information into the so-called zeitgeist of the American and worldwide mind frame and mindset. The Q operation even had a huge deal to do with that. That's undeniable. So that's why somebody calling that Q operation, a Mossad psyop, that's absurd. Why would they expose themselves as being the enemy when they've done that, clearly? They wouldn't want to do that. They would want to stay in the shadows. They would want to stay secretive. They wouldn't want anybody to know what they've done and who they are and what they've been responsible for this entire time. So think of it like this, just visually speaking. Imagine yourself standing or hovering at a 40,000-foot view. You're above Earth. It's flat, of course, but you're above Earth and it's enclosed. And you're holding a string in your hand, and that string goes down right to the bottom of the ocean. And everything is on top of this platform that string is attached to. The more knowledgeable we become, we of course have an innate need given to us by God to pull that string upward, which raises all tide. Which of course, again, lifts all ships, as the so-called saying goes. I know I just butchered it, but you get what I'm saying. A rising tide raises all ships. That's what's happened here. And the rising tide is quite literally us consistently learning and then bringing this knowledge to endless people, regardless of who listens. It could be an audience of 1,000 people, like this show. At least 1,000 clicks. I don't know how many more people listen to the show, but that's approximately the size of this show. It could be even more than that with other shows. But just keep in mind, Just because, again, those particular shows have the most clicks and the most views and the most subscribers doesn't mean they're telling the truth. It's us, the ones that are not afraid to tell the truth, because we know what that full-blown truth is, and we're always trying to find it. And that's really the most important part, is they're always looking for it. We're the ones that are pulling that string upward, where everything is sitting on that platform, raising the tide for everyone. We're trying to do that. Now, ultimately, it's Jesus Christ pulling the string. We know that, but he's using us to pull that string up. I hope that visualization made sense, because that's what's causing this change. That's what's causing numerous individuals to not be afraid to tell the truth, to speak with a sharpened tongue, and to not be afraid to have confrontations. As I said earlier, there are more truthful confrontations taking place between citizens and politicians now more than ever. Even so-called conservative and Republican politicians, because again, when you raise the knowledge level of citizens, and citizens individually and then collectively learn all of the truth no matter what, we have no choice but to bring this to other individuals. We have no choice but to confront politicians. We have no choice but to give them this information and see what they do with it. If they do nothing with it, we know exactly who they are and what they're willing to do and not do. If they do the right thing, and they consistently learn, well then great. But unfortunately, a lot of these people are deathly afraid of what's going to happen to them if they learn the truth or act upon it. But we can't be afraid. Christ wasn't, and look what he did for us. So why should we be afraid? I'm not trying to preach with anybody. I'm simply saying he's the one really pulling the string. We're on that string pulling with him. He pulls the hardest, but he's got us pulling it too. And we're the ones raising this awareness. Not to mention, of course, there's the money argument. Everybody hates losing money. And some people, unfortunately, are married to it. But people don't like watching their money, by the billions and hundreds of billions of dollars, be thrown to two countries that happen to be Jewish. This is an undeniable pattern. So people have to start asking themselves these questions. The whole AIPAC discussion, that wasn't a discussion that was happening a very long time ago. That's a discussion, of course, that's been happening now for at least 10 years. It's the Great Awakening, ladies and gentlemen. There's no going back to sleep. This ball has been kicked down the hill. No one's going to be able to pop it, stop it, or slow it down. We just have to be the ones to consistently pull everybody else up. And that, of course, causes us to do the exact same thing. We are consistently trying to pull ourselves up and educate ourselves about a great and many things so that we can do the same for our fellow citizens. That's the point. That's why I hone in very specifically, of course, the name of the show. That's why I hone in on the subject of education. Because it goes, it's universal. It goes across all races, all ages, and it impacts all of us. And if it's false, we have to either blindly believe that it is the way that it's being told, or we have to investigate. And then if we realize that what someone or a group of people is being told is false, we have to tell people that this is in fact the case. So that's what I try to do here. I know you do the same thing, and I love it. And that's fantastic. And we can't stop, and we can't slow down. Just because Donald Trump is going to be back in office, so to speak, God willing, again, I hope that he is. I want that to happen. We still have to, again, do our best to look at the entire landscape. Again, this war isn't over. Not by a long stretch. Not until we stop sending money to these countries. And I want to bring up some positive stuff here in the future, too. I want this show to be loaded with positive stuff all of the time. I have some positive things to bring up here in this episode, like lots of episodes, but even so, we just have to keep moving forward here. It doesn't end because there was an election. we still have a role to consistently educate ourselves and educate the people around us and look through the weeds and look for the bright side in things, but also be logical and sit back and say, okay, this seems very odd. Let's dive into this a little bit more. We still have work to do. And that, I don't think, is ever going to stop. Not unless Christ comes back and he's the one that rules for 1,000+ years, and there is peace throughout every land, and everybody leaves each other alone, and no money changes hands, and no bombs are dropped, and people aren't slaughtered and raped to death, and 1,000 other things. Until that all happens, we have a job to do. So let's just keep doing it. And I hope you keep listening to the show. And I'm going to try my best to get things right. If I get something wrong, I get something wrong. Which, by the way, again, earlier before the election and throughout, of course, the last 4 years, I've tossed out a bunch of different theories. And I've openly said, hey, look, I don't know if this is going to happen, or this is going to happen, or that's going to happen. And if I got something wrong along the way, I apologize. And I certainly hope, I am sorry if I got something wrong. And I know that I've gotten a few things wrong, and I always do my best to come back here on the show and try to correct it. So again, I don't have a problem being wrong, because the person who's consistently learning is going to be wrong about things. I know nothing. I try to take the Socratic approach when it comes to that. Me personally, I just find it to be more productive. To be able to, again, sort of look at things as objectively as humanly possible, and then educate yourself, of course, about what multiple options might mean and what might happen from multiple different angles. So, yeah. With that said, again, I appreciate everybody listening, and let's keep moving forward here. Okay. Speaking of some good news here, I've got to start with this regarding education. What has happened over the last week in the field of education is a mass exodus and exposure of brainwashing, communism, Bolshevism, and violence among school employees of a biblical proportion. The available jobs that exist in America now in the education quote-unquote profession is massive. It has to be in the thousands. You're talking superintendents, school board members, building administrators, district office workers, school teachers, non-teaching staff, and even students getting suspended and or expelled because of their meltdowns, calls to violence, unprofessionalism, contract-breaking behavior, etc., etc., etc. Just over a week because of an election result. But as we know, it's not just the election result. It's a deep-seated brainwashing and manipulation of the human mind with evil propaganda, not good propaganda, but evil propaganda that has been believed and perpetuated by evil people on a populace who believed it. And then they all, again, follow the leader like ants marching right off of a cliff. We've never seen anything like this in our lives. This is a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon that has existed here. You can't say it's not going to be biblical. It most certainly has been, just this past week alone. Now here's what I want to do. I want to run through Libs of TikTok's page and highlight some of these stories that have been brought to her attention, that she has again posted on her page, of course, from numerous individuals feeding her information because she has 3.1 million followers on X. So with that said, let me mention this first, though, regarding the local story of Danielle Mann. As it turns out, Danielle is married, and apparently is married to a farmer, allegedly. So she's married to a man. Probably not a happy home these days, but that's that. If that's the case, either way, she has not, as I'm recording this, she has yet to be fired. She's still on paid administrative leave. I wouldn't be surprised, because I know that this does happen, as it even happened with me when I was on paid administrative leave many years ago. over 10 plus years ago, that it's quite possible she'll be on paid administrative leave, and if she has any sick days left over, that she will be paid for those days. So that I know will upset numerous individuals, but your paid leave days and the money that basically sits there as your paid leave, that's your contracted money. So you're allotted that money. And again, as much as that's going to upset people, she's going to get paid that money, and she has to because it's a contractual obligation. The ironic part, of course, is she's violated her contract, and you would think in instances like this, then that money exchange for her paid leave would become null and void. But that's not usually how it works. Normally, they just pay you the remainder of the money that they owe you that, frankly, you've already earned. They've just stocked it away as, of course, being paid leave days, for sick leave and things like that. However, this school district is a different beast altogether. And I don't know what's going to happen with her particular case, but given the previous moves of the school district, they might keep her. I honestly don't know. I'm going to have to find out one way or another. Like I said, though, regardless of what they do, the entire district and the superintendent are in Zootsving. It's not going to matter what it is that they do. Whatever move they make, it's a bad one. And whatever move they make, they're going to rain down hell on top of them. So again, I'll keep an eye on it. I have numerous people communicating with me about what's going on. They can't keep this a secret. If she returns, everybody's going to know. And if she doesn't return, everyone's going to know. Rumor has it she's been here for 30 years, so why doesn't she retire? Again, she's violated her contract. She's violated her teaching license, which means if she keeps her job, as I said in the last episode, if she keeps her job, then the public has the responsibility of oversight to send all complaints to the State Department of Education in the state of Ohio to go after her teaching license. They can keep her on board, but you can't teach without a license. And again, this just would reflect poorly on the superintendent and the entire school board and every building administrator and everyone else, because they would be using discretion instead of the law, which contracts are legal documents, as we all know. Same thing with all of the documents that people sign when it comes to retaining and obtaining a teaching license. So again, if anybody who was unethical in this entire fiasco thinks they're going to get away with it, they have another thing coming. I mean, the fun is only just getting started. And the embarrassment for Danielle Mann is only just getting started. If she thinks that all these videos on all video platforms are somehow going to save her from something, she's lost her mind. Which, by the way, you're welcome, America. I immediately found out that I wasn't finding her on Rumble or BitChute, so I decided to put together a little montage of all of her breakdown videos and news reports regarding her. And I created that video, and it exists on my BitChute and Rumble channel, American Education FM. Feel free and bounce over there and check it out. And if anybody listening to this has a YouTube channel, and you want to toss it up on YouTube also, although I've seen her on YouTube also, so it shouldn't shock anybody, but the problem is that her breakdown videos aren't being shown by local news outlets. And they're even getting it wrong. In the local news outlets, the reporters who were in town were saying, well, we've seen the video, and it's a school teacher saying some politically divisive things about the election, and that's why they're on paid administrative leave. No, that's not the reason. That isn't the reason at all. Keep in mind, these news outlets didn't play her own videos when they had access to them. Why not? Why not? She's calling for division and violence among students. Violence because of division. That's what she's calling for. Openly so. Not to mention she's mentally unhinged. I think that goes without saying. That's my opinion. But that goes without saying. You wouldn't want your child in a classroom like this, would you? to be that detached from reality? I mean, that's the problem here. But again, if she maintains her employment, you go after her license and you crush her. Hell, I'll be the first one to fill out the complaint form. I've got all the documentation. I have the links to the videos. You can use my links to her videos and libs of TikTok and all these other social media posts to, again, use them as evidence against her teaching license. Can't teach without one of those. Can't be an administrator without one of those. Which again, by the way, if the superintendent allows her to maintain her employment and doesn't fire her, then you go after the administrator's licenses. You go after the building administrator's license. You go after the superintendent's administrative license. They can't do what they do without a license either. Most individuals in most states, average citizens like myself, we have this oversight. We have the ability to do this. Now it's just up to us to keep doing it. That's why the fight doesn't end here. Not until there are logical conclusions that are reached in all situations. Now, with all of that aside, let me get into these libs of TikTok headlines, and there are a bunch, again, regarding a number of different teachers and things that they've said, along with other school employees. Here's a post again from a while back. It's titled, Meet Ashley Walker, an elementary school teacher at NEISD in Texas. Ashley says, fuck every single Trump voter. She claims that, quote, hates this country and thinks we're going back to 1930s Germany, although we kind of should. Anyway, she says she also claims that Christians are what's wrong with America. So let me read this little post from her. This was from her Facebook page. Again, these people are on Facebook. It's so embarrassing. Either way. Again, it seems like a job killer. You would think that these people would just learn to stay off of it, but they can't help themselves. She said, quote, I'm so disgusted with the amount of people in this country who prove their hateful and racist ideals by voting for that putrid filth. I'm not joking. If you're a MAGA cultist, just unfriend me. You voted for everything I stand against, and clearly you desire hate and divisiveness and have complete disregard for any morals. I hate this country right now, and I hate the people who voted to take us back to 1930s Germany. You voted against me as a woman. You voted against me as a teacher. Fuck y'all. I don't care if your family, quote unquote, or whatever. I hope your magical Savior Dump and Project 2025 makes all your hopes and dreams of a new Nazi America come true. Oh, and all you Republican men, it gets rid of porn. What does that mean? Now what are you gonna do? This is a teacher who can't spell. This is a teacher who can't complete a sentence, nor is grammatically correct. There, again, huge problem. I love it when these people take to social media because they show everybody just how illiterate they are. Let me see here. Here's another one. This is horrible. A woman in Seattle, Washington was arrested on murder charges after she allegedly killed her father with an ice pick because she was overwhelmed due to the election result. There you go. Let me keep going here. More teachers. Here's one. School board member. Meet Matt Bergeron. School board member for the Voorheesville Central School District in New York. He's been very angry at the result of the election and believes that Trump voters support chaos, rape, habitual lying, indecency, and unbridled selfishness. Oh, the irony. Here's what this dimwit had to say on Facebook, again, taking to Facebook to air their grievances. Quote, if you feel as though this election hurts as much as it does because it's invalidated all you've been taught, you're not alone. We were taught to tell the truth, treat others with dignity, be empathetic, and always treat others with decency. Indeed, we teach these things to our own kids, and they are fundamental skills taught in school. Are they? Now here's where his hypocrisy kicks in, because these people don't even read what they write. He says, but now, a conscious, deliberate decision was made by a majority of voters in this country to disregard those lessons. They've somehow rationalized within themselves that the behaviors we see on the national stage are acceptable for elected office, but, hopefully, at the same time, presumably would not approve of their own children sexually assaulting others, lying without compunction, insulting others as their primary form of communication, and doing only what benefits themselves. Oh, again, the irony. These two interests are not compatible. No self-respecting adult can vote for one, yet expect the opposite of our children. Therefore, common sense must, lead the rest of us to conclude that such adults not only approve of, but may even go out of their way to model and teach such abhorrent behavior. There's so much more I want to or could say, but I won't. Not now. Well, except for emphasis. They said if you voted for chaos, rape, habitual lying, indecency, and unbridled selfishness, you've made the jobs of the responsible adults much harder. We are now charged with mitigating and undoing the harm you fomented. Thanks a lot, unquote. Again, their hypocrisy is endless. They don't read what they write. Here was another individual who was exposed, again, from local citizens and then brought to Libs of TikTok's attention. This is Sarah Murray. She has now resigned as a school committee member, Millbury Woolies in Massachusetts. Let me open up this quick little thing here. Here's what this individual said on Facebook. They said, "Thank goodness we have a piece of shit covered in broken glass instead of a well-qualified, intelligent, capable woman. Fuck you, Trump supporters. I hope you choke on it." And she included a quotation here from someone else. Looks like from a book. I don't know, something titled Undecided by a David Sedaris. It says, quote, "The flight attendant comes down the aisle with her food cart, and eventually parks it beside my seat. Quote, 'Can I interest you in the chicken?' she asks. 'Or would you prefer the platter of shit with bits of broken glass in it?' To be undecided in this election is to pause for a moment and then ask how the chicken is cooked," unquote. Again, people have lost their minds. But at least she's resigned now, and there you have it. So good for her. Again, the list is frankly endless here of the number of individuals, again, people who have been arrested, even parents, I'm sure. Plenty of other school-related individuals, as I said before, school teachers. It's wild. One final piece of audio to play from an unhinged school teacher. Again, this person should immediately lose their job. I don't think that is worth debating. This is an Annie Dunleavy, a special education teacher at Chapman School at Cheshire Public in Connecticut, who reportedly posted a video online threatening to kill and hurt Trump supporters. And here we go. Here's her audio in 3, 2, 1.
And people of color and poor people and gay people and all the people that I care about aren't going to be safe in America. Neither the fuck are you guys. Just because you won doesn't mean we don't remember who the fuck you voted for. You're not in the clear. And just please don't test your gangster on me, because you will end on a stretcher. Gone. Forever. So serious. Nobody fucking talk to me unless you want to swing. If you want to fight, text me, call me, whatever. Anybody else, stay the fuck out of my face. And if you voted for Trump, literally, please delete me, block me, get rid of everything of me, or step to me so that I know what's up and I can handle you how I see fit. Please just come forward. We fucking know. Just tell me. Or leave. Please. The door.
She seems nice. Again, if she isn't fired, and even if she is, you go after her license. You contact the Connecticut Department of Education online. You look up the teacher discipline forms that exist, and discipline reporting forms and licensure reporting forms. You look up their codes of conduct, you read them, you reference the codes of conduct in the discipline form that you fill out, and then you email it and send it via actual snail mail to the appropriate individuals at the state level. Do both of those things, both email confirmation and actual paper print confirmation in the actual sender mail. You send this off to them, they have to investigate by law. They have to. They have no choice. And the fact that these people are putting themselves on video is all the proof you need. It's not hearsay. It's not, well, I don't like this person because somebody told me they said this. No. It's the actual people filming themselves. That's how stupid they are. They're so dumb that they're putting themselves on film, ending their own careers. It's an undeniable accusation. It's not even an accusation. It's just full-blown proof. So bury these people. Do it. You have to do it for the safety of all of the children who still have to come across these people. Again, average citizens have no choice, whether you're affiliated with the school or not. Another tip, I should say, even this also. I've had parents reach out to me regarding Danielle Mann and saying that they're going to pull their kid out of her classroom. Yes, you should do that. And if she returns to the school district in any capacity, you have work to do then. If she comes back as a school teacher in that building or any building, you have to pull your children out of her classroom. Don't give her any students. It's that simple. Pull your children out of school, period, and permanently. You should be doing that now. Not just because Danielle Mann, for example, in the town where I live, said a bunch of stupid stuff that, of course, is remarkably divisive, violent, and should cost her job. But this is what every parent should be doing across the board. If your children can read and write, they can teach themselves. They don't need to be subjected to these environments and these kinds of people. Speaking of violence, did anybody hear about the Tuskegee University shooting? Anybody mention that on any platform? Was that across all social media or all across, rather, the mainstream media platforms all at the exact same time? Why not? I know why. It wasn't on all of those platforms and all of those mainstream media outlets at the exact same time because it was real. It was blacks shooting blacks. And they don't bring that up because they're told not to. And if they do, it's just a very quick story and then on to the next thing. I saw video footage of it. I put it in the last war video. It was a full-blown gunfight. Hundreds, if not thousands of rounds going off. Here's what it says. Again, this is from WVTM13.com. Tuskegee University toughens campus security after mass shooting at homecoming celebration. It says Tuskegee University is tightening security protocols on campus after one person was killed and 16 others injured in a mass shooting at a weekend homecoming celebration. The campus will be closed to anyone who is not a student, faculty, or staff member. In a news conference on Monday, Tuskegee University President Dr. Mark A. Brown said that everyone will be required to show a university ID to enter the campus and must wear their IDs at all times. Those who do not have an ID card can get one at the Public Safety Building. The university appointed a new campus security chief, and the previous one was let go. Shocking. The Macon County coroner identified the victim of Saturday's shooting as 18-year-old Latavion Johnson from Troy. Ah, yes. Authorities say that the shooting also injured 16 others, a dozen of them by gunfire. Many of the injured were students, but Johnson was not. Okay, so the one killed wasn't a student. What was he doing there? The Alabama law enforcement agencies said that Jaquez Myrick, 25 of Montgomery, was arrested and federally charged with possession of a machine gun. ALEA said Myrick was found in possession of a handgun with a machine gun conversion device. So he probably had an automatic Glock. That would be my guess. It's what the brothers in the hood like. They like those long clip, fully automatic Glocks. Full size usually, full-size Glocks. It's amazing. Anyway, it goes on here. It says Tuskegee University posted a statement on its website stating that the deceased person was not a student, but there were several university students who were injured. Well, great. Again, This should be a lesson to numerous individuals. This doesn't happen at of course, the vast majority white universities. I need to say that because that should go without saying. But this is one element. Another element, of course, is the gang-related element, which is highly possible. There's also the other element of the fact, again, that this should prove to people that many school shootings, quote-unquote, finger quotes here, school shootings, that make their way on numerous social media platforms and numerous mainstream media platforms all at the same time are usually not really school shootings. They're scripts. The news stations are given the scripts. It fits a particular, wavelength of thought that they want people to have at that particular time. They hand it over to all of those news outlets. They all run with the story no matter what. Breaking news, Fox News alert, blah, blah, blah. And then everybody just starts drinking it in like it's real. Nashville, Uvalde, Sandy Hook, none of them happened. Didn't happen. This one happened, and nobody covered it. Again, it should show them also that they don't want to perpetuate the blacks are violent storyline. They don't want that out there either. That they're the ones that commit most of the violent crime. Over 60% of all violent crime in America. We can't run with this story. It's only blacks doing it. It has to be whites shooting whites. Or it has to be whatever, Hispanics shooting children, or some other, angle of that particular wavelength of thought in order to perpetuate some kind of a gun grab. I don't hear any talks of gun grabs right now, do you? This should show people who the real enemies are. It is the media. Yes, they are the enemy of the people. No doubt about it. Which, by the way, just to revisit Nashville very quickly, doesn't anybody find it interesting that during the so-called Nashville shooting, that the Audrey Hale character shot into the building, walked around, never encountered a single soul until the police officers were there, and then allegedly shot this person dead, so we're told. And so the video would appear to indicate. And yet, before Audrey Hale walked into the building, in the background, you can see children on a playground, all playing. Isn't that odd? It's almost like there were no children inside the actual building. It's like the building was empty. Again, these are called clues. But, people don't, I don't know. They never played Clue when they were a child. They don't play Clue now. They don't engage in thinking exercises or use their brain. I don't know what else to say. It can't get more obvious. The ones that are the most real are the ones that the media doesn't react to because they weren't given a script. It's not sensational in any way. So they don't run with it. But if they're given a script or somebody's given a heads up, then it becomes sensational. That should be the indication to you that it's not real. Amazing. Okay, jab-related stuff. Let me play a piece of audio here to kick this off. Good Lord. I hope you're sitting down when you listen to this. This is another election meltdown, and she brings up all the shots that she's going to take and how that's going to somehow keep her safe. You can't make this up. Give her a listen in 3, 2, 1.
I'm doing between now and January to prepare for January 2025. Number one, I ordered my college transcripts today because I actually don't have a copy of those. I am going to go make sure I have my birth certificate, and if not, I'm going to request a copy of that. I have my social security card. I have a passport that is still valid for over 3 years. If you don't have a passport, I would recommend you go get one. We can go over how to do that. It's relatively straightforward. Vaccinations. I am going to be going in next week to get my flu vaccination and to get my updated COVID vaccination, and then to touch base and make sure that there's no other vaccinations that I need to get. I do travel frequently, and that's something that I'll be reviewing with my doctor. Medical care. I will be making sure that I have had all of my regular appointments. I'll see my gynecologist. I will go see my primary care doctor. And I did lab work actually yesterday. So trying to make sure that I've gotten all of that taken care of now. And I can hopefully forecast or address any issues that need to be addressed. And then lastly, prescriptions. So this is both for myself and also for my pets. I live in the middle of nowhere. I do tend to have prescriptions on hand for my pets, for more than 30 days at a time for anything that's not a controlled substance. I would be looking to do the same thing for any of my personal prescriptions. And I will be having discussions with my doctor this week and next week about the prescriptions that I'm on and seeing how much I can have on hand just to weather any of the changes that come through. In my case, none of mine are life-saving medications, so the stakes are a little bit lower, but they do make a really big difference in my life and in my day-to-day.
And she's dead. She died yesterday. I'm only kidding. But she's not going to survive. She won't make it. You can't have that wavelength of thought and that belief system and that false belief system and expect to make it in this world. She just won't survive. I give her 3 months, maybe 4 tops. She'll start injecting herself with multiple poisons. She'll get sick and she'll get dead. That's the way that this goes. Again, these breakdowns are supposed to be breakthroughs in consciousness for some, and that is happening. Unfortunately, it is becoming a full-blown implosion when it comes to numerous individuals, and I think she's a perfect example of Exhibit A. So there is that. She should probably read up on this article also. It might help her out a little bit. This is from ac.news. It was titled, COVID-19 vaccines, quote unquote, and they even have them in quotes because they know they're not a vaccine. All vaccines are poison, but you get what I'm saying. It says, estimated to have killed more people than 121 Hiroshima nuclear bombings. I don't think nuclear weapons were used in Hiroshima or Hiroshima, however you want to pronounce it. Again, people survived. Plants grew, birds were flying around, insects existed, so it wasn't a nuclear bomb, but it was certainly a hydrogen bomb or something else of that nature. There's a list here of some stats to run through, and again, you would think that she would want to know this. It says, since the global rollout of the COVID-19 injections in late 2020, substantial data has surfaced linking them to a catastrophic number of deaths. Below is a working list of some of the strongest evidence to date. Rancourt and others estimated that 17 million COVID-19 vaccine deaths worldwide by September of 2023. Me personally, I think worldwide it has to be in the hundreds. And those are the people that are already gone. Those don't include the individuals who are still ill or have permanent chronic conditions that will cause their death in the coming years. It says an estimated 3.1 million excess deaths likely attributed to COVID-19 vaccination lockdowns among 47 countries of the Western world from 2020 to 2022. VAERS report, of course, has 1.176 million deaths, or certainly, it says deaths here. It says Skidmore estimated 278,000 Americans have died from the COVID-19 vaccine by December of 2021. That was just by the end of December. You would think that would be enough to pull it off the shelves. And the list, again, the list of stats here just goes on and on and on. There was also this one. Actor James Vanderbeek, although I don't think he acts much anymore, of Dawson's Creek fame, he was diagnosed with colon cancer a year ago. Stage 3, at the point of diagnosis. Again, I wonder what from. What did he do? What did he take? I find it fascinating, these news outlets, whether they be NBC, CBS, ABC, they're constantly reporting on actors, actresses, even their own colleagues, their colleagues' family members. They're all sick, lots of cancers, and nobody seems to know why. No one's asking the question, what's the one thing they all have in common? Again, blows me away that no one's asking that question. Not to mention, of course, there's this, and it makes you wonder again. Do these individuals who have taken those shots who are sick, are they piecing any of this together? This was from the Gateway Pundit. Woman fired for refusing COVID vaccine wins record $12 million from rogue employer. Do they not know the legal battles that are going on among the individuals who were fired for not taking the shots and refusing to take them, and the winning that's taking place regarding those individuals who refuse to take them in lawsuits again against their employer, their former employers? Are they aware of any of this? You would think they'd ask themselves, well, geez, why did they refuse to take it? Well, now, why are they winning all these lawsuits? What information is coming out in court that is giving these individuals the evidence that not taking it was a good thing? Again, these people aren't asking these questions. It says Lisa Domsky, who worked at the insurance company Blue Cross Blue Shield as an IT specialist for over 3 decades, was fired from her position for refusing to take the jab, which has since been proven to have been neither safe nor effective. After suing the company for religious discrimination against her Catholic faith, Domsky was awarded significant damages by a federal jury in Detroit, according to the Associated Press. The ruling included $10 million in punitive damages against Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, as well as $1.7 million in lost wages and $1 million in non-economic damages. Her lawyer, John Marco, pointed out that during the so-called pandemic, Domsky always worked remotely. Even before the virus broke out, the vast majority of her work was carried out remotely. Quote, "Our forefathers fought and died for the freedom for each American to practice his or her own religion. Neither the government nor a corporation has the right to force an individual to choose between his or her career and conscience," Marco said in a statement after the verdict was confirmed. Lisa refused to renounce her faith and beliefs and was wrongfully terminated from the only job she had ever known, he continued. Again, there's a picture of her and her lawyer. There you go. Congratulations. That's awesome. Now open the floodgates for all lawyers to sue all of these individuals and all employers and burn them to the ground. Again, class action lawsuits, individual lawsuits, take these hospitals and insurance companies and providers and all of them, regardless of the location. If schools fired you for the same thing, go after them too. If they cut you loose because you wouldn't wear the mask, go after them too. Lawyer up. Walk into your lawyer's office with these news reports. Find them, look them up, print them out, and say, are you aware this is happening? Do you even know that this is happening in the United States? Do you have any idea how much money you could make as a lawyer by bringing this, or of course, bringing this to the court's attention, but bringing my case associated with this and things like it to the court's attention? Lawyers have a serious opportunity here, but they have to recognize when people's rights have been violated and when they haven't. And that's another story altogether. Which in conclusion leads me to this. You would again think that numerous people would be asking the question, why? Why is this happening? This is also good news. But again, do people who are jabbed not know this? This is from don'tspeaknews.com. It's also on a number of other platforms, but it was titled, Cleveland Clinic Issues a Chilling Warning. Wave of Mass Deaths Will Wipe Out COVID Vaxxed Within 5 Years. This was dated November 11th of 2024. It says, editor's note. This is what experts have been saying since day one, including many doctors who were silenced. But nobody would listen, and people told me that I was crazy. 2 years ago, I even showed you this testimony from one of the mRNA test subjects who were still alive from the mRNA drug trial he was a part of in 2013. He was one of 5 people left alive out of 200,000 participants. So yes, the story you're about to read and the videos you're about to watch are all true. And now maybe the Daigle Company's prediction of the USA will only have 100 million people by 2025 will make sense. I will post that below as well. I found this initially on the Exposing the Darkness blog on Substack. And then his name there. Okay. It says the following. The prestigious Cleveland Clinic has issued a chilling warning of an upcoming wave of deaths that will kill off huge numbers of people who received COVID mRNA vaccines. However, rather than issuing a red alert to the public about the looming catastrophic death wave, the Ohio-based nonprofit academic medical center quietly dropped the bombshell in a recent update on its website. According to Cleveland Clinic, mass mortality is expected to surge due to a ticking time bomb of myocarditis among COVID vaccinated. Myocarditis is an inflammation of the heart muscle or myocardium. This inflammation weakens your heart muscle, making it harder for your heart to pump. Myocarditis has caused strokes, blood clots, cardiac arrest, and ultimate sudden death. Doctors warn that myocarditis acts as a silent killer, and it can often be symptomless, with many suffering not being diagnosed until it's too late. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, myocarditis is a known side effect of the COVID mRNA injections. As cases of myocarditis have surged since the COVID vaccines, quote unquote, were rolled out in early 2021, Cleveland Clinic has now updated its website with alarming new information on the disorder. According to the renowned medical center, 50% of people who contracted myocarditis will be dead 5 years later, quote unquote. For some people, myocarditis can lead to dilated cardiomyopathy, and they may need a heart transplant. The web page explains. Almost 20%, it says, of sudden deaths in young people have a connection to myocarditis. The survival rate from myocarditis is 80% 1 year after having it, and 50% 5 years later. Now, what's the longer prognosis? You've heard me bring it up numerous times. You're probably not going to make it 9 years when diagnosed with myocarditis. You cannot treat it nor cure it. You can give yourself drugs as the day is long to maintain a particular heart rhythm, but the damage that's been done is permanent. As I've said before, I said it on Kate Dalley's show back in 2021, specifically August of 2021, and again, she played that school board speech and she brought up the business of myocarditis, and I clearly told her and her co-host there at the time, her guest host, I said, look, this is a death sentence. Again, there's no treating it. It's permanent heart damage. And then if that individual needs a heart transplant, what kind of a heart are they going to receive? Is it going to be a nanotech biosensor ridden heart from someone who's passed away for similar or other reasons? Or is it going to be, again, are they going to sit on some long waiting list and never receive said heart? Because again, what are the likelihood of you coming across a heart that is not jab damaged to some extent and then receiving said heart within yourself? Again, my point is that the hearts aren't going to be available. And you can't take a jabbed heart and put it inside of a human being and, again, expect them to be okay. Basically, the heart transplant business is going out of business. And Cleveland Clinic's owning up to this now. Because, again, these patients keep coming back and they keep coming back and they have more progressive chronic illness and more progressive problems. Well, what does that mean? So again, I hate to end it on a downer, but at the exact same time, people have been warned. People were warned. This was out there. This information existed. Yes, it was being suppressed. We know that. Yes, the mainstream media wasn't bringing it up. We know that. But it's not our responsibility to listen to them and believe it as if it's gospel. It's quite the opposite. It's our responsibility to not trust them and to find out what the truth really is, and then piece these things together and then come up again with a logical answer using the scientific method. That's it. So, again, I pray for all of these people. I truly do, but that's one hell of an admission from the Cleveland Clinic and numerous other outlets. So there you have it. Again, we will see what these people say and or do about such a publication and such an admission. But these people need to start asking themselves who are ill, why are they ill, and what's the one thing they all have in common? You'd think they'd start asking themselves that question. And I'm certain that people are, but my God. The cancers and the heart damage and everything else associated with this, again, people can still wake up. But then they need to start finding real solutions and come to grips with what they've done. In fact, I meant to say this at the end of last episode, and I didn't say it, so I'll just say it now. A massive wake-up point is going to be when the COVID shots are taken off of the market. If the COVID shots are taken off of the market during this Trump administration, either through executive order or whatever it may be, the evidence has to be presented to all states and all counties and all health departments as to what is going on with these shots. the history of it, the health impact of it, the death toll, you name it. And then they can even compare it to all other shots that have been given throughout the entire course of history. Because again, more people have died from these COVID shots and these COVID bioweapons than all other bioweapons that have been injected into people, called vaccines, in the history of all quote-unquote vaccines. That's a fact. So with that said, this information has to be given to the very people who are responsible for pushing it out in the first place. You talk about suicide weekend. It's going to happen right then and there. If they're given an order to cease all distribution of all COVID shots, the people who have already taken them, their heads are going to explode. Not to mention the medical administrators in the local departments and school board members and numerous other people. I mean, you talk about mental breakdowns. I don't think we've seen even the first wave of it yet. I mean, we've seen the first wave with the election. I shouldn't say that. But even so, when it comes to the revelations of these COVID shots on a mainstream level, even though it's already out there and has been since the very first shots were given over the, 4 years ago, for God's sakes, you would think that people would already know this on a mass scale. But when that comes out, and if Trump and his administration and RFK Jr. eliminate this permanently, heads will explode. People will lose their minds. They will. Guaranteed. So I'm going to end it with that. Again, that's going to be a massive revelation when that occurs. And I do think that's going to occur. I do think that we will be told that these shots have been taken off the market, and that all states and counties and health departments and hospitals and doctors' offices, you name it, can no longer administer these shots. That's not going to stop the brainwashed from still not administering them. They will. But that's going to be a massive wake-up call for endless people. And it's going to be unavoidable. I mean, it'll just be flat out unavoidable. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening as always. I'll catch you on Friday. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.